Hi guys, we're back with another episode of Higurashi Chapter 2. K-Chan, over here! Someone tugged lightly on the back of my shirt collar. It was Shion. She beckoned me outside the crowded ring of people. She had a mischievous grin on her face, and I took it as her saying she knew a good place nobody else knew of. Shion, what's up? Shh. Just be quiet and come with me. After she told me so, she ran in a big detour around the throng. Man, it's great to have someone who knows the lay of the land here at times like this. Impressed though I was, I nearly lost sight of her right away. No more getting separated from me. I ran after her so that I wouldn't be left behind. As I wondered in anticipation what kind of secret spot Shion had in mind, we left the crowd of people and went around to the back of the shrine grounds. Hey, wait, where are we going? We're getting farther and farther away. Shh. Just stay quiet and follow me. You'll understand soon. Shion gave me a wink that reminded me of Mion as she said that. No sign of people and not much moonlight. It was dark. We had gotten pretty far away from the crowd of people on the shrine grounds. How are we supposed to see Rika-chan's dance from here? I see, there's some high spot around here, isn't there? Like a rooftop or somewhere we can look down at it, right? What? Why do we have to climb onto the roof? Well, how else are we supposed to see Rika-chan's dance? Did you really want to see Rika-chan's dance? K-chan, could it be that your strike zone is really low? I don't think we're understanding each other here. Weren't you going to show me somewhere I could see Rika-chan's dance from easily? What? Who made that promise? Nah. What's going on? Why me? Why do I always misunderstand Shion? Is it my fault? Am I just reading the wrong things into it? Then why did you call me all the way out here? With an expression that indicated she wasn't fooling around, Shion pressed her index finger to my lips and said slowly and quietly, "This place is a dark, dead, empty spot. You can't see it from the festival grounds, and now a male and a female of the same age are all alone together. Eh? Could this be? Shion, she's not planning something crazy again, is she? Shh. Look over there. See?" Shion whispered, pointing into the dark underbush. And there we saw two figures, one male and one female. What's that? Is that... We're right at the scene of the rendezvous, of course. See? Look closely. Can you tell who they are? I peered intently into the dark at Shion's suggestion. Oh, it's Tomotaki-san and Tanaka-san. The two of them were clearly breathing quietly and glancing around to make sure nobody knew they were there, as they crouched before the entrance to a wooden storehouse-like building. Wait, Shion, could this be what you wanted to show me? K-chan, you can see Rika-chan's dance in a year, but you won't get another chance like this, okay? I had thought the Sonozaki sisters each had their own personalities, but at times like this, they seemed all too similar. I'm going back. Don't call me for something like this again. If you move now, they'll see us. At our noisy argument, Tanaka-san suddenly turned around. Oh my, who might that be? We held our breaths and tried to wait it out, but it seemed like Tanaka-san was now acutely aware of our presence. Shion and I exchanged glances, then gave up and climbed out from behind the bush. Well, hello there. The moon sure is beautiful tonight, isn't it? My. If it isn't Shion-chan and my Barakun. Good evening. Yes, the moon certainly is pretty. What's this? Kichi-kun, you sure are smart, you know that? Having a secret date in a place like this? Then I guess we accidentally interrupted something important. You're the ones who were meeting up secretly. Tomotaki-san and Tanako-san laughed to themselves, and it got on my nerves for some reason. Wait, so you two weren't having a little rendezvous then? Of course we weren't. Though I don't dislike that kind of romance. Unfortunately, this wasn't the location of a rendezvous either of you would want to see. Sorry for not living up to your expectations. If this wasn't a rendezvous, then what were you doing? Tomotaki-san, were you messing around with the padlock on the door just now? Huh? After she said that, I looked at the two of them again, and I definitely saw it. They were hunched in front of a warehouse door, fiddling with a pretty heavy-looking padlock. Guess we've been found out, huh? We were trying to break into the warehouse, but don't tell anyone, alright? Don't tell anyone? Are you thieves or something? I demanded unthinkingly, just because of how absently Tomotaki-san was grinning. Nah, never. Thieves are people who steal things, right? It's not like we were trying to take anything out of here. I see. Then why are you trying to unlock the door? This is the forbidden storehouse for ritual tools. They say only the Furude family and a mere handful of others are allowed in. Forbidden storehouse? I took a few steps back at that and looked on the entire warehouse. It certainly looked like one, built removed from any signs of people, almost as if in secret. It was filthy, revealing how little it was ever open. And it was built to be durable, giving it a strange, overpowering impression. Now that I looked at it more closely, it was certainly different than normal warehouses. This place, they're called ritual implements. Basically, this is a warehouse where they store such tools used in rituals. Well, more accurately, maybe it's a temple where the implements are enshrined. The ritual Higurashi-Ch is using for the offertory dance was inside here today. Of course, if anyone but the Furude family enters, they bring impurity into it, so absolutely no one is allowed a single step inside. It's a sanctuary. Shouldn't we absolutely not be coming to a place like this then? However, Tanaka was wearing a childlike expression, an innocent smile at best, and terribly cruel grin at worst. I told you I was researching Hinamizawa's folk tales and legends out of an interest in them, didn't I? A lot of the answers to questions I'm curious about are hidden away inside here. I've waited all this time until today for this chance. A chance? Everybody's eyes were fixed on the dance at the shrine grounds today. This was the ultimate blind spot. I see. I didn't know you had lock-picking skills, Tomotaki-san. Stop it. I don't want to be doing this, okay? Sorry for taking you along with me, but this was all thanks to you, Jiro-san. I really am grateful. Sheesh. This is the only time, understand, Tanaka-san? I don't want to be sneaking into places like this. You really are a good person, Jiro-san. Kerklink. Tomotaki-san undid the padlock and placed it to the side. It's open. Thank you. At long last. Tanaka-san gulped. With an unusually excited air about her, she gave the heavy door a shove. The sharp smell of mold and dust flowed out from the gap in the doors. I had claimed curses didn't exist, but in this situation, I could believe in them. If we went into such a holy place with our shoes on, it feels like we could be punished somehow. How about it? You're accomplices too. You came all the way here, so why not come in and take the tour? It'll be a little field trip to a museum of precious cultural artifacts that conceal the secret history of Hinamizawa. And it's only open today. We're not accomplices or anything. Aren't you interested, though? Come on, let's take a peek. Shion said predictably, linking her arm with mine. But we definitely shouldn't be doing this. This is a holy warehouse, isn't it? You said ritual implements, right? I really feel like we shouldn't go in. I'm a part of the Sonozaki family, so I have a good guess as to what we'll find in there. But I want you to see it too, Kei-chan. You want to show something to me? I thought it was a ploy, but Shion's eyes looked entirely serious. Of course she was the sort who would lie with a straight face. Of course, I was an average boy too. My curiosity was at least twice that of a normal person. Sleeping forbidden treasures never to leave this warehouse? Chances like this don't come around too often. If I had to choose then, I want to see. Until the locked door is open, though, I don't know about this. If you're not interested, Kei-chan, then you can leave now. I think you'll wonder about it later, though. Tomotaki-san spoke after listening to our discussion himself, having sat down on the stairs to take a short rest. I'll keep watch here. Go in and check it out with them. I'm not too interested, but it might be pretty interesting for a young guy like you, Keiichi-kun. He said, laughing mischievously. There was no ill will in his laughter. Tomotaki-san, do you know what's in there? Kind of. Tanaka-san told me all about it. It must be a pain to have to go along with your companion's unique hobbies, huh? Tomotaki-san didn't answer that, only responding with a pained smile. Tanaka-san had this kind of scary air about her, like she'd drop absolutely everything else for something she had an interest in and go straight for it, but Tomotaki-san, on the other hand, seemed like the gold standard of what a normal person should be. Having him tell me so frankly to go check it out suddenly made the guilt feel lighter. Okay, but just a little. If it's not interesting, I'm leaving. You got it. Shion gave me another Mion-like wink. Looks like we're decided. Shall we go inside? Jiro-san will leave this to you. Tomotaki-san waved his hand to see us off. The inside was pitch black, but Tanaka-san turned on the battery-powered lantern she brought, revealing a pretty cramped front room. It's so dark in here. Everybody take care not to trip over anything. I appreciate the concern. Okay, doorman, keep a good watch. We're shutting the door now. Tanaka-san smiled spitefully, as if leaving Tomotaki-san out of something fun, and began to close the door. Man. Alright, everyone, have fun. There was a low, heavy, and loud noise, and we were completely cut off from the outside world and covered in silent darkness. Tanaka-san's lantern was the only light we had. It'll be fine. It's an outdoor lantern with backup batteries inside. It won't go out or anything. Looks like Tanaka noticed my uneasy expression. I couldn't help but blush a little and avert my gaze. Deeper inside, there was a heavy and old but sturdy door with solemn decorations on it. It was the last door sealing away what was within. Strange how it has an antechamber even though it's just a warehouse, isn't it? I believe it's set up this way so that you open one door at a time, never letting the room with all the tools be seen from the outside. Tanaka-san explained this, awfully impressed by the construction. But still, it's really dark in here. Huh? That over there, I spotted a circuit breaker hanging from a clump of wiring clumsily attached to the wall. Oh, here, isn't this the light switch or something? I flipped the biggest switch I can find. With a click, the pitch-black room was illuminated by an old, bare-lit bulb. Everyone scrunched up their faces at the sudden strobe-like brightness. Don't! Before she even finished, she unslapped my hand and flipped the switch back. There was another loud click, and the room returned to darkness, with only the lantern for illumination. Ow! You can't, K-chan. We snuck in here, remember? If you turn on the light, it might give us away. I'm scolded by Shion fairly harshly. It looked like she was worried about whether someone had seen them from the momentary light. It's alright. It was only for a moment. Tanaka-san remained a relaxed adult. It seemed like she was confident she could talk her way out of it if someone did see us. Let's go in. Here we go. There. The even heavier door opened, and this time it wasn't just the dust that came out with the air, there was also a nasty smell. One smell was like opening a dust-filled cupboard in the back of the kitchen that hadn't been opened in years. And the other smell, the nasty one, was hard to explain, but it was like the raw odor of a fish market. From how the sound echoed, this room felt far larger than the first. Tanaka-san held up her lantern and revealed the contents of the expansive room. Whoa. At the back wall of the storehouse, right in front of us, was a Buddha-like holy object standing there looking down at us. I was taken aback by its unforeseen force, lit up by the slender beam of the lantern. That's the guardian god of Hinamizawa, Oyashiro-sama. It's far grander than the one at the shrine. Oyashiro-sama. So this is the spirit protecting Hinamizawa. The one guarding the holy land of Hinamizawa from the impurities of the outside world, and the one delivering punishment after punishment upon those who attempted to sully the land with the damned construction. It looks like there are far more tools stored here than I thought, but this is so sad. None of them have been maintained. How unfortunate that they're in such a state. Even in the dim light, I could see a lot of strange objects lining the walls, ceilings, and shelf. Tanaka-san, speaking as if in a trance, was infatuated by the various implements filling the dark room. They weren't very festival-like or traditional, but instead, this was more like the workshop of a blacksmith or a carpenter. There were a lot of large wooden and metal tools packed in here. Putting it bluntly, it was all pretty boring stuff. I'd imagine there would be more artistic things in here from the Heian period, but these are a far cry from being cultural artifacts. My expression betrayed my dashed hopes, and they caught on right away. Oh, is this not interesting for you? I'm not into literature or art, so I can look at this stuff, but I don't really understand its value. Hey, Chikun, you really do look like you don't get it. I guess that's only natural. Tanaka-san reached into a paper bag that she'd been holding the whole time, took out a worn scrapbook, and began flipping through it. Then, just for you, Keiji-kun, I'll tell you an old story. It's a common tale in this region. If you do go to the library, it would even be on their recommended reading list. Telling stories in such a dark, creepy place. She must have a horror story in mind. Shion's face bellied nothing but calm. If she had the same personality as Mion, she'd have found fault with me being scared. I'll endure it for now and pretend to be calm. Okay? Alright, I'll read it. After confirming that I was going to be quiet and listen, she began to speak softly like a kindergarten teacher reading a picture book. Long, long ago, in a certain village in the mountains, there was a swamp. This swamp was very, very deep. Some even called it bottomless. People said it was connected to hell, the land of demons. The rumor said that it was deeper than the ocean, and that anyone it swallowed would sink into the underworld, a bottomless swamp. Its name was Onigafuchi. Wait, I thought back to the story I heard yesterday about the sacrifices sinking in the bottomless swamp. Could that be the swamp she's talking about? So then the village was Hinamizawa, right? You catch on quickly. That's right. Though it was called Onigafuchi Village at the time. Onigafuchi Village. That's a pretty inconspicuous name. It evokes quite the image, doesn't it? I hear that the name was changed in the Meiji period. The name of the swamp connected to hell was called Onigafuchi, which meant the demon's abyss. And the true name of this village, Hinamizawa, was Onigafuchi Village. The villagers belonged to that abyss, or to hell in other words. They lived their lives worshipping the swamp said to connect to it. But then one day, demons began to appear, one after the other, from deep in the swamp. The villagers feared that hell was overflowing. The demons mercilessly attacked the villagers. They could only watch in fear. They could do no more than hide themselves and tremble. So did someone exterminate them? Unfortunately, there is no Momotaro or Superman in this fairy tale. Then, did they get the whole village together to fight them? Heavens no. The villagers weren't nearly strong enough to fight on equal terms with the demons. Then, the only recourse would be to flee the village. They couldn't do that either. To the villagers, it was their beloved homeland. It didn't matter how terrifying the demons, they wouldn't have run away so easily. Then, what did they do? Wouldn't they just get wiped out? Unable to fight and unable to run, all they could do was wait for the village to be destroyed. And then, when everyone had lost hope, their god, Oyashiro-sama, descended onto them. I see. So, Oyashiro-sama came down from the sky and beat up all the demons then? You're such a boy, Kei-chan. You've always jumped straight to using force to resolve things. Shion sighed, a little annoyed. Embarrassed, I held my tongue. The thing about Oyashiro-sama, he wasn't a violent god who would beat them up, like you're saying. He was a kind god, filled with love and benevolence. The strength of Oyashiro-sama descended from the heavens couldn't be compared to that of the demons. They didn't even fight, they simply protested themselves before his radiant authority. Oyashiro-sama urged them to go back to hell from whence they came, but the demons wept and challenged him, saying they could never return. The world of the demons, too, has harsh commandments. They claim that they had been banished from hell. Demons, who didn't have a place to go, either in hell or in the human world. Of course, they were at fault for attacking the village. They deeply reflected on it and were sorry. As the villagers conversed amongst themselves, little by little, they came to pity the demons, and After talking with everyone in the village, they decided to live alongside them. A lot of fairy tales have them being exterminated or driven away, but you don't often hear one where they live in peace. You're right. Demons are supposed to symbolize all evils. A story where they decide to live together with humans is certainly strange. When the demons first heard the villagers' invitation, they doubted their ears, but soon burst into tears of joy. The villagers had given them a place to live. It was said that in payment for their good deed, the demons shared their many kinds of powers and secrets with the villagers. Oyashiro-sama was very pleased with this happy exchange. He gave the demons the bodies of humans so that they would be indistinguishable from the villagers. He himself decided to stay on the surface and watch over the everlasting peace between them. A land in which man, demon, and God lived together. I had thought the word demon was a noun, meaning evil that needed to be exterminated. A god may have meditated for them, but you don't often hear happy endings like that where both sides live in harmony. I see. I guess it is kind of interesting. Although the normal fairy tale ends there, it was revised quite a bit during the Edo period into a much longer story. After that, the humans and demons intermixed, and eventually there was no difference between them. So the demons ended up disappearing? No, not at all. Half of them stayed just as they were. The knowledge the villagers had received from the demons basically made them into something inhuman, what people call transcendence. They were well aware the power they had was hearsay, and as those below worshipped them, they lived out their lives in secrecy. The story is the root of many derivative tales and pieces of fiction. It's the foundation, the basis. What do you mean by root? She means the part of the villagers having demon blood. What I mean is, all of the legends from around here are based on the premise that the villagers are descended from demons. There was a hint of amusement in Shion's face as she said that. It was like she wanted to say that she too had demon blood in her. Is there any proof, though? Maybe it's somehow rooted in historical fact beyond just fairy tales. Oh, my Barakun? Then do you believe that demons really did come out of the swamp and breed with humans? Well, it's not that I don't believe it, but when she said demon, she meant the ones from hell, but in ancient Japan, the word wasn't necessarily used to denote only that kind, right? The more well-known use involves the drifting foreigner theory. As the story goes, Westerners who were shipwrecked in nearby seas had such markedly different customs that they were called demons. Japanese people were relatively similar in appearance to other Asians, but everything about those from the West was different. Their physiques, their faces, and their skin color. In Japan, terms like red demon and blue demon evoke images especially of Westerners. Lacking in skin pigments, Westerners would sunburn easily and turn red. Being fair-skinned, I think blue vessels appearing on their skin would look blue too. A handful of accidental aliens would drift into Japan and came under persecution, being called demons. They would flee into the mountains to survive, turn into bandit groups, and attack villages for food and the like. How does that explanation sound? Maybe it's a bit childish. Tanaka gave me a weird smile when, having come up with such an impromptu hypothesis, I unconsciously followed it with self-depreciation. Still, she didn't smile as if to make fun of me. It's not ridiculous. There are a lot of people who subscribe to the drifting foreigner theory. Even so, nobody actually knows what happened. Were they groups of foreigners who had turned into banditry, or were they really demons who had come from the bottom of the world? Then, Tanaka-san, which one do you believe? The truth of the matter aside, I'd rather believe the most fantastic explanation. It's more fun that way, isn't it? Her answer made her sound a wee bit like a romanticist. Here I thought she'd reject unrealistic stories like that. Now then, this is where the fun begins. Tanaka-san brought an end to her storytelling and waits for a moment as if to tantalize us. Suddenly, Shion looked around as if something had caught her eye. Her head bobbed to and fro like she was making sure nothing had changed. What's wrong, Shion? I'm sorry. Please don't worry about it. Shion pretended as though nothing had happened. Tanaka-san also made sure nothing had happened, then cleared her throat and broached the next subject. I explained that half of the villagers have demon blood. That blood, they actually say that it's the blood of the kind of demon that eats people. Man-eating demons? That escalated quickly. That blood still runs through the villagers' veins. They say that sometimes the blood awakens from its slumber. I thought the fairy tale had a happy ending, but the humans and demons living in peace, but it began to suddenly change into a brutal, bloody story. Well, they eat people. They say that every decade or so, they can't help but want to feast on human flesh. The villagers can't eat other villagers, so when this happens, it's said they descended on the human villages and conducted onikakushi. What's an onikakushi? Broadly speaking, it's when a demon kidnaps someone when a person is demoned away. They say that the villagers of Onigafuchi would overwhelm unfortunate human villages in order to kidnap sacrifices. Tanaka-san's explanation was plain and simple, but when I imagined what it must have been like, it was terrifying. They lose their human reason. The villagers turn into real demons en masse. They attack the villages they loathe in the dirty world of the masses below. And then they kill and eat their sacrifices. So they're no different from demons after all. What did Oyashiro-sama do? Wasn't he supposed to be staying in the village and watching over them? Oyashiro-sama knew about it, of course. Onikakushi isn't indiscriminate. The villagers apparently never kidnapped anyone other than the sacrifices decided upon by their god. In the text, it's usually one or two people. A village inhabited by those both human and inhuman. It was like the heartwarming episode's color had inverted like negative film, revealing the painful and ugly truth. So on the nights when they raided the villages, they would feast on their kidnapped sacrifices, which is why the nights came to be known as Watanagashi. Tonight's festival was Watanagashi. I just couldn't reconcile the fun festival with the horrible tale Tanaka-san was telling me. Watanagashi, well, wasn't it about giving thanks to the futons we use over the winter or something? Kei-chan, Wata has another meaning, you know? It means entrails. Shion, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Entrails? Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. Like fish guts? Wait, what? Like a jigsaw puzzle, the fun times I had today and Tanaka-san's grotesque tale clicked together in my mind. Watanagashi, so gut spilling. I didn't think saying that could ever feel so nauseating. Yes, it's as you imagine, my Barakun. Right now, the Watanagashi Festival might just be a somewhat early summer festival occurring every June, but it used to be different. It used to be a ghastly, cannibalistic feast held on the night the villagers had collected their unfortunate dinner. That can't be true. I had no real reason to say that, but I couldn't help it. My Barakun, you said that the Watanagashi is a ritual about purifying futons, right? What do you think the futons filled with cotton with wata represent? Futons are futons. They're beds. They're things for sleeping in. What else could they possibly represent? I was rattling on, desperately attempting to deny the horrible festival that Tanaka-san was describing. Deep down, however, I found myself understanding all too well what she meant. Futon stuffed with cotton. If the cotton represented the entrails in both pronunciation and meaning, then entrail-filled futons would have to be humans. Why don't you think back to the offertory dance Rika-chan performed? Do you know what she was doing up there? No, I don't. I didn't even watch the whole thing anyway. Shh. Kei-chan, you're getting too worked up. She ungrabbed one of my ears, reminding me that this wasn't somewhere I should raise my voice. Even so, I still can't suppress this agitation I feel. Rika-chan was carrying a festival hoe. You've probably realized it already, but that's not a hoe for plowing fields. It's a tool for dissecting human bodies. I didn't see the dance all the way through, so I don't know what kind of performance Rika-chan was putting on after I'd left. When I told this to Tanaka-san, she kindly explained Rika-chan's dance to me. To summarize what she said, after what I'd seen, Rika-chan would pierce the futons with that hoe, cut them open, and pull out the cotton inside. She'd cut the cotton out one bit at a time and set it afloat. That's the kind of ritual it was. Broadly speaking, it was quite the bombastic ceremony where they'd rip out the guts and throw them into a basin. And then the ritual was over. It's thought that afterwards the villagers, each with a different role, dismantled the flesh piece by piece and feasted upon it. At Tanaka-san's strangely happy giggle, I felt for some reason violent displeasure. Rika-chan, every day during our lunch break, she'd take a rice-pounding mallet into the schoolyard, and she worked so hard, sweating bullets to practice for the offertory dance she had done today. All that effort, all that work, Tanaka-san disgraced it, even though she worked so hard to practice for today. Tanaka-san, I think you should choose your words more carefully. Kei-chan's pretty naive, so please don't tease him so much. A moment before I opened my mouth to express how angry I was, Shion stopped me. Shion must have been fully aware of how that story made me feel. I'm sorry. I thought you'd like the story with that sort of shock value since you're a boy. Tanaka-san spoke without a hint of malice as she smiled gracefully. After hearing all that, did you figure out what kind of stuff is in the storehouse, Kei-chan? See, look. Shion pointed out one of the walls vaguely illuminated by the lantern's light. There was. Mere moments ago, they hadn't held my interest. They were just boring-looking tools lined up on the shelves. Ugh. All those uninteresting tools that I didn't understand how to use. They all suddenly took on a new meaning, and I couldn't help but let out a groan. At first, they had looked like carpentry tools, and like chisels and planes. However, when I thought back, I'd seen pictures of those sorts of tools before. Yeah, they came up in Japanese history textbooks. Yes, on the page introducing the Kaitai Shinsho, or the new text on anatomy. These sorts of things, they're printed realistically in the literature of Germany, capital of the medical world. These aren't carpentry tools. These strangely shaped tools, they're for dissection. Everyone knows that in the Edo period, they would dissect corpses of those who had been put to death in order to gain knowledge about Western medical techniques. Illustrations of the dissection tools they used at the time came up in textbook supplements. The things hung up on the wall all looked exactly the same as those. If you want a scarier way of looking at it, think of them as cooking utensils. Tanaka-san, holding the lantern, the only light source in the room, led us along the wall. She had the only light, so I had to walk after her whether I liked it or not. Look! Tanaka-san illuminated a coiled chain which left a bigger impression than the other things we saw. The chain in itself was nothing unusual, but farther along it were mere metal fetters that were like hinges, clearly meant for binding people. Kei-chan, look at that! Shion tapped me on the shoulder and pointed to a restraining table that was clearly shaped like a person. My spine froze. My blood felt like it was turning into sherbet as it crawled up my back. On each of the joints, there were things like chains and iron balls attached. It was like the table was searching for its next sacrifice, ready to spread their arms wide and close them in. It's probably a chopping block. I think you'd strap the sacrifice down to prep them for eating. The words chopping block sent a jolt through my body. When I looked more closely, there were many dark slices carved into it, as though from a knife or a saw. They were the most clear-cut signs of usage you could ask for. It proved these tools weren't just for show, they were used for their original purpose. If someone was strapped tightly onto this table, they probably wouldn't be able to move even a muscle. Their guts would be defenseless. You'd take one of those eerie clicking knives lined up over them, stab them with it, and then you'd slice open their belly and dissect them. I'd heard the stories, but this is incredible. Before coming in here, Shion had mentioned she had a good guess of what was inside, but it seems to have exceeded her imagination. And there's still more. How about it? More fascinating than a wax museum, isn't it? Tanaka-san said this happy expression like she was visiting a toy store for the first time. I don't get it. This Mio Tanaka person has nerves of steel. Are these bizarre, gross text objects that fascinating to her? I, for one, was not enjoying myself. I'll be frank. This was all too weird for me. Still, there was something even more horrifying than all of this. That would be none other than Takano-san herself. Takano-san holding the lantern, giving off such a thin beam of light, if she suddenly turned it off, then what would I do when the next moment everything went totally dark? That's why I was scared. Tanaka-san had the only light, and anyway, I was scared. At some point, Shion had started holding onto my shirt sleeve. It was a little annoying to walk like that, but I didn't shake her off. That minor sensation allowed me to feel the presence of an ally here and now. Before we had even walked halfway through the storehouse, the air I felt on my skin changed completely. These cruel tools lined up, all crammed together in this place. Some were horrible ones made to take away sacrifices' freedom, and some were tools made to efficiently disassemble and prepare the bodies for consumption. Those were just the things I understood. There were plenty of other strange-looking objects that I couldn't even guess the purpose of. Now that I was here, I didn't have the slightest desire to hear the details about that sort of terrifying reasons they were meant to be used for. At the very least, they were all completely different from the sort of clean, simple killing function of a katana. Tools to kill people were obviously constructed in such a way that they could kill people. If that was the goal, then the person who used them on would obviously end up dead. The kind of tools here, however, were different. The tools that were here were for cutting people, for crushing them, for boiling them and cooking them, and for grinding them. They were tools of torture. They weren't made to kill people. People dying was just an incidental result. Actually, they might not even kill them. If the sacrifices could die during such a horrifying ritual process, that would be nice, but they don't even die in the end. They remain in a state of hellish pain. Perhaps they were only being allowed to live. Only now in this moment did I fully realize just how terrifying and fearsome that difference was. people, you see. Most of these wouldn't kill them if used properly. Tanaka-san said, as if reading my mind, displayed a shocking smile. Burning at the stake, the famous method of execution for witches, will kill the person immediately. When the body suffers extreme burns on the skin all over, the decomposition of the skin's chemical makeup produces poison-like symptoms and causes an immense shock to the victim. Though I suppose it's still very cruel compared to the guillotine, you have to wait far longer for that to happen. She describes such horrors in a strangely medical way. Shion immediately answered the question I had. Tanaka-san is a nurse. There's a saying that nothing could scare a doctor. I guess it's true. Oh, and also, there was a method of execution in ancient Rome where they would grill the person, just like a barbecue. They would cover the person in wire netting and slowly cook them over a charcoal fire. To think the memories of when I went to a day camp with my family would come rushing back now of all times so vividly. That's what it was like. Apparently they wouldn't die too easily for some reason. According to one source, even if they roasted one side of a person to a crisp for an entire night, they would still be conscious and able to speak fluently. That's insane. You'd grill someone the whole day and they'd still be conscious. It's said that ancient Rome, famous for their executions, thought of plenty of ways to execute someone while having the victim stay alive as long as possible. Among them, there was one method where they would open the gut, pull out the intestines like sausages, pull them up with a winch, and put them on public display. Shion was behind me, clinging to me. Not just because she was scared. She was protecting her stomach. You would think someone with their intestines pulled out would die instantly, right? Actually, as long as you do it tenderly and thoroughly, it's apparently possible to pull them all out while the person is still conscious. I felt a sick feeling in my stomach. It was like my organs were coiling up just from Tanaka-san's stare. Though pulling them out with a winch was a rather exaggerated method. In a more barbaric way, they might slice open the gut, then cut the intestines out and throw them everywhere. It's quite imaginable that they did dreadful things like that too, isn't it? However, those being put to death are conscious. It must be far more terrifying than painful. She spoke with pleasure, as if she had come here on a sightseeing trip. I heard Shion gulping multiple times near my ears. Perhaps Hinamizawa, or rather Onigafuchi village, did something like that for the Watanagashi festival. Listen, if you try hard, can't you hear it? I wanted nothing more than to not hear anything at all. So why? Why only at times like these do I begin to hear things I shouldn't be able to? Tanaka-san, having realized she'd scared Shion and I enough at this point, smiled soothingly. Then she turned on her heel, raised the lantern, and began to walk away. If Tanaka-san left us here, we'd get even farther away from the light. Shion and I, no matter how scared we were forced to follow Tanaka-san along on her field trip through the ritual storehouse. I suppose we've seen a bit of everything. See? This place is interesting, isn't it? She says, raising the lantern high in the center of the storehouse. The dim lighting didn't change, but for some reason it felt like I was able to see all of those horrible tools at once. Kei-chan, look up, Shion stammered while grabbing the nape of my neck. I couldn't tell because it was so dark, but there was a lot more tools hanging from the ceiling as well. They all looked like they were made of iron bars, but then I figured it out. Cages. For cages, they were very small. Cramped cages just for one, like a casket. If you got locked up in there, no, you wouldn't get locked up inside it. It was another tool meant for restraining people, where the iron bars would squeeze you tightly. So many big and large things of all shapes were hanging down. Tanaka-san's mention of execution by grilling crosses my mind. We weren't just surrounded on all sides by these terrifying instruments, things crowding the ceiling, or even hanging over our heads. There are many of these sorts of bird cages among European torture devices. I'm surprised to see them in Japan as well. K-chan, is there something in there? A person? A mummy? Where? Shion desperately pointed to one of the many human-sized bird cages hanging from the ceiling, but I couldn't tell which one she meant. Being that dark, there wasn't any way you could tell if something was there in the first place. I don't see anything. You sure you're not seeing things? Shion didn't seem convinced, but without a means to confirm for ourselves, we couldn't do much to wonder. My Barakun, after seeing this, have you come to believe in all of it? The countless terrible rituals passed down in Hinamizawa? It's got nothing to do with believing in them. Now that I've been here, shown the real thing like this, there's no possible way to deny it. Even the nations of Europe, with all of their beautiful landscapes and legends, were like a malice storm during the terrible witch hunts in the Dark Ages. It's well known that the era gave birth to countless gruesome forms of torture and execution. Japan was the same way. Didn't it have its own era of hellscape like torturous feasts because of religious suppression and things of that nature? Hinamizawa itself had a period. It had that much history behind it. Even in Europe, land of the witch hunts, that was all far in the past. No more than a series of historical events, and in this age, nothing that abnormal would ever happen. That must apply to Hinamizawa as well. Just as Europe had its dark age, Hinamizawa had one too. That's how this should be taken. Even if these things all really happen in Hinamizawa, they're long past. They don't have anything to do with the people living in Hinamizawa right now. My Barakun, you really do like this village. It didn't sound like she was making fun of me. Tanaka-san gave me a light smile. Tanaka-san, you're researching whether those customs survived into the present. You are, right? Shion suggested something that made my heart leap into my throat. Are you telling me that all of these horrible things are still going on even today? What I'm about to tell you is a secret, alright? I told you, Shion-chan, because you're an understanding person, but the other villagers don't want to hear it. If things go awry, I could be ganged up on and punished. Shion flashed a devilish smile, as if reveling in the immortality of it all. My Barakun, you keep it a secret too, okay? If this gets out, I could suffer Oyashiro-sama's curse, or be made into a sacrifice. If it's the curse, then I wonder what kind of death it'll be this year. If it's the sacrifice, then will I be thrown into the Onigafuchi swamp while still alive? It is tonight, you know, the night of Oyashiro-sama's curse. Tanaka-san said, bringing her face right up close to ours, as if to say that if she had the choice, she'd rather suffer the curse. That was what she seemed to be implying. Tanaka-san took a fairly worn notebook out of her paper bag, then began to flip through its pages. There were all sorts of references and newspaper clippings attached to them, and it had all manner of things written inside. The letters were very small and bunched together, so I couldn't tell at a glance what it was about. What I'd really like to do is search through the National Library for newspapers from the era, but here it is. A photocopy of a page from some book was slid into the notebook, and it too was written in a small, tight lettering. Like the other pages, I couldn't tell what it was about just by glancing at it. This is a story that actually happened. It was around the end of the Meiji period. They discovered an unknown mangled corpse, the victim of a murder in Onigafuchi village. An old newspaper clipping attached to the page spoke of something that was no mere rumor or fairy tale. We don't have most police documents from the times anymore, so it's all based on oral traditions and memories. See, it's not very clear, but it looks like a cutout of a newspaper from the Meiji era. Never before has there been a corpse treated with such cruelty and inhumanity. / could it be the work of a demon? Being a copy of a copy, it was very hard to make out, but it was more than enough to make me feel strangely tense. Near the end of the Meiji period, in old Onigafuchi village, a mangled corpse was discovered. The identity of the corpse was unknown. It wasn't even in a state where it could be identified in the first place. It was missing a head, and each limb was separated from the body. Skin had been peeled off the entire body, and there were markings that implied terrible torture in every place imaginable. Not only that, but the belly had been cut open by a sharp knife, with the entrails completely dragged out. The police immediately began an investigation, but since they couldn't even determine the identity of the victim, much less the criminal, finding answers was extremely difficult. Do you understand what it must have been like? I couldn't imagine such a strange sight, even if I tried. This was the first time I was ever thankful for my lack of imagination. The victim was skinned while still alive, underwent all kinds of torture, and was killed brutally. The author here also thinks that even after death, the remains were divided and dissected even farther, the epitome of inhumanity. I'm of the opinion that the entire process was performed while the person was still alive, though. What do you think, my Barakun? She spoke in a way intended to make me imagine even more vicious things. As my brain was already far over capacity, however, there was no way I could imagine anything more brutal. Then when I broke my gaze from Tanaka-san's, those strangely shaped weird tools were all around us. I wonder if you could faithfully reproduce the mutilated corpse discovered at the end of the Meiji period with the tools found in this place. I want to deny it. I don't want to admit that something so terrible could have happened at all. Even so, they were so strange, so terrifying, these tools. And if they had seen through my attempt to escape from them, they did nothing but ridicule me silently. So, that creepy incident, what was it in the end? The author says that regarding Onigafuchi village's dreadful customs, they've survived into recent post-Meiji days, and that perhaps they lasted until around the beginning of the Showa period. This corpse, which at a glance had been brutally killed after a period of torture, in actuality, however, it was the pitiful sacrificial remains of a man-eater's terrifying feast. The corpse was just leftovers. It was so fantastic, so strange, that it didn't feel real. Was this an extension of the legends too? It happened in the Meiji era, though, which is just too recent to be called a legend. Also, there's a newspaper clipping right here suggesting it. Okay, but even if it really happened, it was a long time ago, right? I mean, the Meiji era ended 100 years ago. That's all. Only 100 years ago. Besides, it kept happening even after the beginning of the Showa period. Like with the uproar around the post-war canned flesh incident. Oh, I apologize, that story was taboo, wasn't it? Tanaka-san immediately stopped talking as if worried about Shion. Shion briefly looked somewhat angry, but that expression soon disappeared. Huh? Tanaka-san, what did you just say? Canned flesh? Just then, there was a huge creaking noise. Everyone whipped around to look. It was Toмотaki-san who had opened the door slightly. Did I startle you? Oh, Jiro-san, could you not resist staying inside? This is a splendid treasure trove of torture devices. I'll pass on that. I'm bad with this sort of thing by nature. Tanaka-san held her stomach and had to muffle her laughter, as if she wanted to make a comment about his masculinity. In any case, the dance and ceremony are over and everyone's going down to the stream. The festival will be over within minutes. Oh, that's no good. My Barakun is just such a good listener that I couldn't help telling stories. I'd really rather you not mention me in a place like this. Jiro-san, could you wait out front? I want to take a few pictures. There are actually a lot of tools I'd like to bring home, but we obviously can't do that. Tanaka-san took a camera out of her paper bag and began to snap photographs. She looked like she was having fun, like she was on a scavenger hunt. Keiichi-kun, are you leaving too? I've seen enough. Shion, you're good too, right? Let's get out of here. I want some fresh air. I agree. Let's leave. I did feel a bit of hesitation at leaving Tanaka-san by herself in this darkness. When I thought about it, though, I realized that whatever kinds of evil spirits and ghosts lurked in the darkness, none of them could hold a candle to how scary she was. Even if a phantasm were to appear, she'd be overjoyed and flash her camera at it. It seemed like Shion shared my somewhat rude mental images. We exchanged glances and smiled painfully. We left Tanaka-san there, bathed in her strobe of camera flashes, and decided to go leave the ritual storehouse. Okay, guys, and with that, we're gonna end this episode here, and we'll pick up and see what happens at the end of the festival afterwards. See ya.